Welcome to Night Watchers, where every story is a door to something unexpected. The cruise had been uneventful so far, the gentle rhythm of the ship's sway putting me at ease. It was the kind of relaxation you don't often get, a perfect escape. But as I wandered through the ship, something odd caught my attention. It was a sound, faint at first, coming from somewhere below deck. Initially, I thought it was just the usual creaks of the ship, but then it came again, louder this time. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to follow it. My heart pounded in my chest as I descended toward the cargo hold. With each step, the sound grew louder, more insistent. The dim lighting and pressing darkness made the descent feel like a scene out of a horror movie. When I reached the bottom, I froze. There, in the shadows, was someone huddled, a figure trembling, their wide eyes staring at me with sheer terror. I didn't know what to think, let alone what to do. This person seemed so out of place, so vulnerable. But as I moved closer, my breath hitched. A deep, jagged scar ran across their cheek, stark and angry, as though they'd survived a brutal attack. "Who are you?" I tried to ask, my voice trembling, but they didn't respond. Instead, they just stared at me, their fear mingling with something else, mistrust, perhaps. Then, without warning, they lunged. Before I could react, they had me pinned against the cold metal wall, their hands gripping my throat. Panic surged through me as I struggled for air. Their eyes were wild, filled with desperation and madness, and I realized I wasn't just facing someone in distress. I was in real danger. I clawed at their hands, gasping, the room spinning around me. Just when I thought I couldn't hold on any longer, the sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. Security was coming, drawn by the commotion. They burst into the cargo hold, the security team moving with practiced efficiency. They pulled the stowaway off me, pinning them down and snapping handcuffs onto their wrists. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, trying to process what had just happened. Later I learned the truth. The person I had stumbled upon wasn't just a random stowaway. They were a fugitive, wanted for a string of violent crimes. They had been hiding aboard the ship, hoping to evade capture and start a new life. But now, thanks to the security team, and a bit of sheer luck, they were behind bars where they belonged. Relief washed over me, knowing they couldn't harm anyone else. But the memory of that night refuses to fade. It feels like a nightmare etched into my mind. The fear, the adrenaline, the fight for survival. I'm alive because of the swift actions of the ship's crew. But that dark secret in the cargo hold still haunts me. What was supposed to be a peaceful escape turned into a brush with death. And it wasn't my last encounter with terror. It was supposed to be a serene getaway, a cozy lodge nestled in the heart of the mountains, surrounded by snow-capped peaks and endless tranquility. The perfect place to relax after a day of skiing, with its crackling fires and soft blankets. But tranquility can be deceiving. The avalanche came without warning. One moment, everything was calm. The next, a wall of snow roared down the mountainside, slamming into the lodge and burying it under a suffocating blanket of ice and debris. In seconds, our peaceful retreat became a frozen prison. Communication lines were severed, and supplies were painfully limited. We were isolated, trapped, and entirely at the mercy of the elements. Panic gripped us as we realized the gravity of the situation. Days passed, and tensions grew among the stranded guests. We rationed food, pooled resources, and tried to hold on to a semblance of normalcy. But as the hours dragged on, it wasn't just the cold or dwindling supplies that gnawed at us. Something else lurked beyond the snow-covered walls, something unseen yet unmistakable. At first it was subtle, Strange noises in the night, shadows flitting past the frost-covered windows, uneasy whispers about being watched. As the unease settled into dread, every instinct I had screamed that something was out there, waiting. One night, the fear became tangible. I was jolted awake by the sound of footsteps outside my door, slow, deliberate, and chillingly measured. My pulse thundered in my ears as I strained to listen. Whoever, or whatever, was out there was trying to be stealthy, but the weight of each step betrayed them. The footsteps drew closer, each one hammering at my already frayed nerves. Trembling, I knew I had no choice. If I wanted to survive, I had to act. Quickly, I reached for the nearest object I could use as a weapon, a sturdy iron fireplace poker. The cold metal felt heavy in my trembling grip, but it was all I had. I stood there, poised and ready, every nerve in my body on edge. My ears strained to catch the slightest sound as the slow, deliberate footsteps grew closer. And then they stopped. The silence was deafening, more unnerving than the sound itself. I held my breath, listening, waiting for any hint of movement. But there was nothing. It was as though whatever had been outside my door had disappeared into thin air. For a moment, I allowed myself to exhale, the tension in my shoulders loosening just slightly. But deep down, I knew the danger wasn't gone, only waiting. Whatever was stalking us was still out there, hidden in the shadows, biding its time. The rest of the night was spent in uneasy vigilance. We gathered together, huddled close, trying to draw some semblance of comfort from each other's presence. Every creak of the building, every whisper of the wind outside, set our nerves on edge. None of us slept. When morning finally broke, casting pale light over the snow-blanketed landscape, we emerged from the chalet. Battered, exhausted, but alive. The fresh air should have brought relief, but it didn't. Every step through the thick snow felt heavy with the weight of what we had endured. I couldn't stop glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see eyes staring back from the shadows or a figure moving among the trees. But there was nothing. Just the vast, empty expanse of the mountains, pristine and indifferent, stretching out as far as the eye could see. What had stalked us in the night? Was it a wild animal, driven to desperation by hunger? Or was it something far more sinister, something beyond explanation? I may never know, but the memory of that long, cold night, the sheer terror of being hunted by an unseen presence, will stay with me forever. As we finally reached safety, I felt a mix of gratitude and haunting awareness. It was a stark reminder of life's fragility and the unseen dangers that can lurk where we least expect them. And though I survived, the echoes of that ordeal will always follow me, a chilling shadow etched in the corners of my mind.